Hi friends, welcome back to my channel. I'm Lora Rolling and this is part 7 of the Merry Christmas Ornament tutorial. This is the Merry Christmas ornament that we are making. It is so cute and colorful, very Christmassy. And today we're doing the unit called IS. If you haven't seen parts 1 through 6 yet, that's okay. You can do these out of order. I'll have those videos listed down below in the description. That way when you finish this one, you can go back and watch those. We just have a few materials to get ready, so let's get them listed and then we can get started. Let's go. So the beads that we're going to be using in today's video are all Miyuki Delicas. I have opaque black, silver lined gold, silver lined green, and silver lined light blue. Just to keep it simple, I'm going to call this black, gold, green, and blue. We'll also need some beading thread and a beading needle. I like to use the Eslon Fire in the color Crystal, and this is 4-pound thread. You could also use 6-pound thread. I also like to use a size 10 beading needle, and if you only have a size 11 or a size 12, then you could use those also. For implements, I like to hold on to my thread at the end of the video with my long nose pliers, and then I cut my thread with scissors. And then in the beginning, I'm going to show you how I use the fire method to end the tail. We only need 3 feet of thread, so let's thread our needle with our 3 feet of thread and then we can get started. So I've threaded my needle and now I'm ready to pick up my first 3 beads. All 3 are going to be gold beads. So I have my 3 gold beads and I'm going to take them and pull them all the way down to the bottom of the thread. Now I'm leaving about a 6-inch tail and I'm going to tie a square knot, which means I'm going to cross over on top and then pull the tail through. And then I'm going to cross over on top again and pull the tail through, which leaves us with these 2 little loops that look like a snowman. I'm going to put my 2 fingers on the lower loop, or inside the lower loop, the one that has the beads in it, and then I'm going to pull on the tail and the long thread until that upper loop turns into a knot. Now I have my tail and I'm not going to touch it to the flame, but I am going to get it super close so it melts the tip. And it turns the tip into this teensy little knot or bead. Now, pulling on the long thread while I'm twisting the lower knot with my 2 fingers until that little knot on the tail meets the long thread. Now I'm going to take that knot with my thumbnail, I'm going to pull it all the way down to the beads. And now we have our first little triangle, and this completes row number 1. So you'll notice that the knot is kind of in between those 2 beads. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to tug that long thread until the knot looks like it's coming out of one of the beads. It also looks like the thread is coming out of that bead too. So let me place my beads over to the side so they're not in my way. I have poured little piles of my beads over on the side, and so now I'm going to pick up 2 black beads. Now it looks like our thread is coming out of this bead, so I'm going to sew through the one that it's not coming out of. And then I'm going to take my 2 new black beads and try to get them to sit right on top of those 2 gold beads. Just like that. Now let's pick up 2 gold beads. And we're coming out of this bead, so let's sew through the next bead. Once again, trying to get those 2 new beads to sit right on top of their buddies. Like that. Now let's pick up 2 more gold beads. And we're coming out of this bead, so let's sew through the next. And then we'll also sew through the bead that's right below it. Each time we sew through 2 beads in this video, we're going to call that stepping up, or sewing through the last 2 beads, because that completes row number 2, and now we're ready to start row number 3. Let's start row number 3 by picking up 2 gold beads, and we're coming out of this bead. Let's sew through the next. Always making sure that the new beads are sitting right on top of their buddy beads. Now let's pick up 1 gold bead. And we're coming out of this black bead. You'll notice that the bead right after that is set downward. We're going to skip that downward bead and we're going to sew through the next one, which is poking up. And I'm going to refer to that as our up bead. Now let's pick up 2 black beads and sew through the next. And pick up 1 black bead. Skipping the down bead, we're going to sew through the up bead. Let's pick up 2 black beads and sew through the next. And we're going to pick up 1 gold bead, which is the last bead in this row. So we're skipping the down bead, we're going to sew through the up and its buddy. So sewing through the last 2 beads. And that completes row number 3. Let's start row number 4 by picking up 2 gold beads and sew through the next. Then 1 black and sew through the up bead. 1 black and sew through the up. Let's pick up 2 black beads and sew through the next. Then 1 black and sew through the up. 1 black and sew through the up. Let's pick up 2 black and sew through the next. 1 gold and sew through the up. 1 gold, and let's sew through the up bead and the bead below it, sewing through the last 2 beads. And now we get to start row number 5. Let's start with 1 black and 1 gold. And sew through the next. 1 gold. Then 1 black. 1 black. 2 black beads. 1 black. 1 black. 1 black. 2 black beads. 1 black. 1 gold. And 1 gold. Then we'll sew through the last 2 beads. And now we get to start row number 6. Let's start with 2 gold beads. 1 gold. 1 black. 1 black. 1 gold. 1 black. Oh, I'm sorry, no. 2 black. 1 black. 1 black. 1 black. 1 black. 1 green and 1 black. 1 black. 1 black. 1 gold. And 1 black. Sewing through the last 2 beads. And now we get to start row number 7. Let's start with 2 gold beads. 1 gold. 1 black. 1 black. 1 gold. 1 black. 2 black, 1 black, 1 black, 1 black, 1 black, 1 green, 1 green and 1 black, 1 black, 1 black, 1 black, 1 black, and 1 gold. Sewing through the last 2 beads. And now we get to start row number 8. Let's start with 2 black beads, 1 black, 1 black, 1 black, 1 gold, 1 gold, 1 black, 2 black beads, 1 black, 1 black, 1 black, 1 black, 1 black, 1 green, 2 black beads, 1 black, 1 gold, 1 black, 1 black, 1 black, and 1 gold. Sewing through the last 2 beads. And we can really see our S coming along. Let's start row number 9 with 2 black beads, 1 black, 1 black, 1 black, 1 gold, 1 gold, 1 black, 1 black, 2 black beads, 1 black, 1 black, 1 black, 1 black, 1 black, 1 green, 1 green, 2 black, 1 black, 1 gold, 1 gold, 1 black, 1 black, 1 black, and 1 black. Sewing through the last 2 beads. And now let's start row number 10 with 2 black beads, 1 black, 1 black, 1 black, 1 gold, 1 gold, 1 black, 1 black, 1 black, 2 black beads, 1 black, 1 black, 1 black, 1 black, 1 black, 1 black, 1 green, 1 black, 2 black beads, 1 black, 1 black, 1 gold, 1 gold, 1 black, 1 black, 1 black, and 1 black. Sewing through the last 2 beads. And now we get to start row 11. Let's start with 2 black beads, 1 black, 1 black, 1 black, 1 gold, 1 gold, 1 black, 1 black, 1 black, 1 black, 2 black beads, 1 black, 1 black, 1 black, 1 black, 1 black, 1 black, 1 green, 1 green, 1 green, 2 green beads, 1 black, 1 black, 1 black, 1 gold, 1 gold, 1 black, 1 black, 1 black, and 1 black. Sewing through the last 2 beads. And now we get to start row number 12. Let's start with 2 black beads, 1 black, 1 black, 1 black, 1 gold, 1 gold, 1 black, 1 black, 1 black, 1 black, 1 black, 2 black beads, 1 black, 1 black, 1 black, 1 black, 1 black, 1 black, 1 green, 1 black, 1 green, 1 green, 2 black beads, 1 black, 1 black, 1 black, 1 black, 1 gold, 1 gold, 1 black, 1 black, 1 black, and 1 gold. Sewing through the last 2 beads, and that completes our 12 rows. If this is the first triangle that you've done with me, I add connection beads on some of the sides so that our units can connect together, and I cap the corners of the triangle. So in this particular triangle, we are not going to put any connecting beads on this side, but we are going to put connecting beads on the bottom, and we are going to put them on this side. So let's start by capping this corner though. So I'm going to take 1 black and sew through the next, and it turns this corner into a little point. And now what I like to do, because we're not adding any connection beads to this row, I like to flip the unit over, and what I'm going to do is sew up 1 bead without adding any beads. I'm going to just sew up along this quadrant line until I end in this bead right here. So I don't want to skip a bead, or a row I should say, because that would show my thread, and we don't want to show our thread at all. So if you don't want to sew up the quadrant line and you want to just sew up any old bead, you can do that too, as long as you sew through 1 bead per row, and that will hide your thread. So while I'm doing this, I will ask you the question of the day. Okay, so while I was designing this ornament, I really had to decide whether or not I wanted to use gold for the Merry Christmas or silver. And I ended up going with gold, and I'll tell you why. I'm normally a silver or platinum kind of girl when it comes to like my necklaces and rings and stuff like that. But back in the day when I first got married, I was into yellow gold. So, and that kind of was the thing back then, because you know, it was like just the turn of the century, and gold was all the rage. So I was a gold person then, but now I am more of a silver person or a platinum person. So let me know. Oh, and I was thinking about it because I had gone into my jewelry box and I had shown Logan the gold. He's like, do you have any real gold? And I'm like, yeah. And so I showed him my gold jewelry from, you know, days gone past. And because I never wear it, but yeah. So I am a gold person, so write down in the comments, pause the video here, and then write down in the comments if you are gold or a silver, platinum type of a girl. Let me know, or guy. Let me know. I'm curious. Alrighty, so now we are coming out of this bead. So what we're going to do is cap this corner by adding one black bead. And now we get to add, that turns it into a little point. Now we get to add connection beads up this row. So let's start with one black bead. One blue bead, one black, one black, one black, one black, one green, one black, one black, one black, and one black. And now we are at our third and final corner, so let's cap it with one black bead, turning it into a point. And now we get to add beads up this side right here. So let's start with one green, one black, one black, one black, one black, one gold, one gold, one black, one black, one gold, and one black. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to, without picking up any more beads, I'm going to sew through that point, and then I'm going to sew up one bead. And now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to sew up 6 beads. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And now I'm going to do what I like to call the zigzag. So we're coming out of the top of this gold bead right here. Let's sew down the black bead right next to it. And then we'll sew up the black bead right next to that one. Now let's sew up the next bead above it and the next bead above that one. And then we'll do a zigzag again. I'm coming out of the top of this black bead. I'm going to sew down the black bead right next to it. and then I'm going to sew up the gold bead right next to that one. Now I'm going to sew up 2 more rows, 1 and 2. The reason we do those 2 zigzags is because we want to make sure that this last bead that we just added is super secure and it won't get loose or anything. So we like to weave our thread so that it secures that bead. Alrighty, so now I feel that it's secure, so let's cut our thread by picking up our thread with our long nose pliers. And then I take my scissors and I get as close as possible to the bead without cutting the bead. And I'm just going to cut that thread. So that completes our IS triangle. And we only need one of these triangles for this project. So I will see you in a second. That was so much fun. Thank you so much for being here with me today and beading along with me. Remember to like and subscribe and hit that bell button so you're notified when the next video comes out. I can't wait to see you there. Thanks for watching.